In today's review, I shall be looking at the brand new Forbidden Planet Underground Toys exclusive Remembrance of the Daleks 4-pack, featuring an Imperial Dalek, Special Weapons Dalek, Supreme Dalek, and Renegade Dalek. The set features the Imperial Dalek as seen in the 7th Doctor Imperial Dalek pack. However, this time there have been some modifications to the figure. The eye stalk has changed in order to be slightly more accurate in the shape. However, there has been a sufficient decrease in size, which, I mean, it looks okay. It's not too bad, but it's just far too small. Why they've done this, I've no idea. There was nothing really wrong with the previous eye stalk, other than that it was a bit long. And the one thing that they really should have sorted out was that blue paint around the iris and on the pupil. Something that they still got wrong, and you would have thought that by now they would have learnt that that wasn't right. It should have been silver and the pupil should be gold, and seeing as they can do it to other figures, why on earth did they decide to keep it blue? It may have just been for some sense of uniformity, I suppose, with the previous release. So if I just put the first version next to it, you can see how much smaller that eye stalk is compared to this one. This size is in scale, and if I turn it like that, you can see how much smaller the new eye stalk is. Another change to this figure is the plunger. Now, on the first figure, it was the traditional plunger with the edges cut like that. However, this one has been adapted. It's a brand new sculpt. We have all this extra piece here, and the shape is now more angular, more sort of funnel shaped compared to the initial circular one. So that's quite good that they've changed that. What's quite funny is that it's quite bendy plastic, so when you move the plunger at the ball joint, it does feel slightly sort of worrying that you might snap the plunger off. And the initial release with Sylvester featured a new gun, slightly thinner gun with sort of straight edges, slightly different from previous releases. But the new one has gone back to the thick guns as seen on the Genesis Daleks and previous Supreme Dalek figures. So overall, you do have a few differences between the two, and I mean, side by side, they still look okay. You could sort of army build them, but I mean, my only major problem is with the colour of the end of that eye stalk. But it does seem odd that they've decided to shrink the eye stalk down so much when that size looked fine. One of my problems with this version, however, was the quality control is absolutely terrible. And this is one thing that I'm going to point out with this set. I would highly recommend actually going into Forbidden Planet and seeing if they have any in stock and trying to pick your own off the shelf, because there's been many horror stories about the quality control on these figures in this pack, and I've heard people getting them through the post, no eye stalks, paint bleeds, all sorts of things. Unfortunately, this one had the same problem. As you can see, some of the hemispheres are covered in white paint. You've got a bit of paint bleed over there. That's not so noticeable. What is pretty crap is the fact that if you hold it into the light, you may not be able to see it so much on camera, you can see where obviously there's been a problem in the manufacturing, and if you can just see where it sort of highlights here, that's just been painted over again with a brush, but it's very noticeable. You can see the brush marks. I mean, you've got paint bleed here onto the white between the slats. So that's quite bad. And of course, much like with this version, the accuracy of the sculpt is completely wrong. The length of the skirt, the shape of it, should be longer, narrower. The greatest addition to this set is the Special Weapons Dalek. Now, so obviously it's quite different from previous Dalek figures. The skirt is the same as the Imperial Dalek, but the paint application is slightly different. And then this middle section here, this top bit, is separate and has been clicked on. So this first bit, just looking at the articulation here, is movable. It does a 360 and turns like it should do. As you can hear, it's quite stiff because the joints are still quite new. And the large gun goes up and down. It's a very nice figure. They've done a very nice job with this one. The paint applications on this one, again, this has been something that people have commented on, arguing that the sort of dirt looks like someone has just got a paintbrush and stippled the paint in between the hemispheres, which I have to agree. On some, it looks worse than others. They have actually tried to put a dirty wash on top of the base colour of the ivory. It has sort of worked, but it would have been better if some of these splodges had blended in. Some of the hemispheres as well are also covered in the paint, so that's quite good. Unfortunately, again, you do have some quality control issues. Some of the paint bleed is quite major. As you can see, a lot of gold has just splodged all over onto the skirt. Some of the weathering effect on the shoulder section is also very bad because they've just got these really obvious brush strokes on the back. It's quite sad to see such a decrease in quality control, but overall this figure is very nice. It's a good figure to have, I think, because it's so different from your traditional Dalek. And it does look nice when put together with the other Imperial Daleks in the set. So overall, I think that the Special Weapons Dalek is a nice addition. And despite some paint application issues and some quality control issues, it is very nice. I mean, the base colour here is sort of gold with a rusty copper painted over the top to give it that nice metallic look. The next figure is the Renegade Supreme Dalek. Again, because it uses old parts, it doesn't reflect the shape of the Dalek as seen on screen. However, it is a very nice Dalek. What is quite weird is the eye stalk. It is a different sculpt from previous Daleks, I believe. The sort of ball section of the eye is slightly more curved, slightly enlarged. But for some reason, not only have they painted it white when it should be silver, the iris section, but they've actually gone over, probably, well, you can see it there anyway, they've actually gone over the section of the eye, because there's an indentation where the iris is, and they've actually painted, if I go like that, you can see the shadow, they've painted over that as well. Not quite sure why they've done that, bit odd, but overall it looks okay. One thing that does annoy me with this one, again, it's another quality control thing. You may not be able to see it so well on here. Oh, there you go. You have grey paint there, or some sort of residue from the glue. And if I lift the eye stalk up, as you can see, that's all under there as well. It's almost as if glue has been spilt onto the eye, and it's sort of got all over the dome as well. I can't actually remove this eye stalk from the head, so I don't know if it has sort of been stuck in or something. So that's quite a shame that the quality control has been allowed to slip like that yet again. Like I said, I've heard people saying that some of them that they've received haven't even had eye stalks, that things are missing, paint application is pretty bad. But overall, again, it's a nice figure, and it's a nice addition to the line, and a nice extra Supreme Dalek. And last but not least, we have the generic sort of warrior renegade Dalek. So the colour scheme is a matte version of the Genesis Dalek, slightly lighter, more of a bluey colour. For some reason, they've used the slat section from the Imperial Dalek, which obviously has no mesh in between the slats, which the actual props did. Also, the amount of slats are incorrect. Now, to be honest, I think they would have been better off just using the normal slat version. It would have looked a lot better. I'm not quite sure why they did it. I think probably perhaps this is quite detailed with all the rivets and things, which you don't see on the Renegade Daleks. Again, this figure features the shrunken eye stalk, which is again too small. But otherwise, it's a very nice figure. If I just zoom in, they've even gone to the lengths of painting the rim of the dome lights black to match the on-screen prop. So it's a nice Dalek. Again, like all of the Daleks in this set, the sculpt does not represent what is seen on screen, but it is a nice figure nevertheless. My thoughts on this set are, I would definitely try and get it, especially if you're a fan of Remembrance. Definitely get the set, because it is good. But just be aware that some of the paint applications and some of the quality control are quite bad. Really do try and go to a Forbidden Planet store if you can, and see if you can sift through what they have on the shelves and pick out whatever's best, because some of the quality control issues are really quite terrible. I've been fairly lucky, really, with just the odd bit of paint bleed here and there on some of the Daleks. But overall, it's a really nice set. It's great to see some new Daleks, some 80s Daleks as well, from quite a popular story. And yeah, I highly recommend getting this set, especially for the fact that we finally have a Special Weapons Dalek in figure form. So thanks for watching this review, guys. My next review shall be the 6th Doctor and Stealth Cyberman from Attack of the Cybermen.